Hey, it's my Bat video of the week. I've been enjoying this Bat conversation I've been having with a number of you guys out there. But I almost didn't make a Bat video this week. I was not feeling my Bat books, in a bit of a Bat haze, where nothing grabbed me. I mean, you would think that this would have been one of my favorite books of the week, but somehow it didn't quite hook me. And then this Batman Eternal turned out to be one of my least favorite books this week. Now, of course, it's still part of that huge tapestry that we've been enjoying and banging our heads against at the same time for 28 weeks. And then I know that everyone's saying this sucked. But I saw some of the art online, and it was in outer space, and I thought, oh, maybe this will be fun. And I'm, of course, talking about Batwoman number 35, which seems to be a breaking point for some of our good friends out there. But I found it kind of an interesting issue, mostly because I did like the art a lot. What I saw online that I thought would tickle my comic book funny bone did indeed, so that while there wasn't much going on whatsoever in the writing, it managed to allow for some fun art for me, with a lot of fun DC obscure characters, basically, or not super obscure, but obscure-ish, Ragman and the Demon. Granted, the Demon's rhymes were terrible. But I thought the art was extremely good, actually, despite the fact that it had multiple inkers. They were all good inkers, in my opinion, and there was very good coloring. Who did the coloring? I don't know. The colorist was Guy Major, not one I've noticed before. The artist is George Gianti. I really like the combination of George Gianti and Guy Major. The inkers are all kind of top-notch inkers. Carl Story, Scott Hanna, Dexter Vines. These are really good inkers. It's interesting, though. I just reread it, and I kind of liked it more on a reread. If you're not looking for Batwoman, if you're not looking for a sophisticated modern comic book, but you're more looking for a just silly fun comic book, I could imagine this in the early 80s at DC. There's some banter in here, and there's some wacky stuff, and there's lots of characters, but there's not a whole lot of characterization, and the wacky banter is not very original. They say they're going to get medieval on someone's ass. What other wonderful things do we have here? There's all kinds of almost laughable lines. Fools, you can never stop Morgan Le Fay. And then Batwoman says, and did I mention how much I hate people who refer to themselves in the third person? That's the best witty banter. I've had enough of playing with you dolts, says the bad guy. Yeah, it's all. You know what it feels like it's aiming for? It feels like it's aiming for like Evil Dead 3 territory. Just the what's the name of that character? Played by Bruce. Just Bruce Campbell whipping out silly lines with aplomb. That's what it feels like it wanted to be. Anything I know about the character of Batwoman is not in here. Nor is very much of the charm of Etrigan or the scariness of Etrigan. There's not much to Ragman, not much to Black, not much to any of this, but they're all kind of there. And it's just the wackiness of all these mostly supernatural characters having a battle in outer space. There's no thought given to it, like why some people are in spacesuits and some aren't, but I don't know that all of the people not in spacesuits don't have to breathe. And how do they communicate? Through the vacuum of space and all of that kind of stuff. It's just pure comic bookiness, no need to think about it at all. But for anyone who cares about Batwoman, it's a horrible issue. For anyone who wants a sophisticated comic book, it's a horrible issue. But if you want just a silly comic book, maybe that's... I haven't read other Mark Andreyko. Maybe that's what he does. A little bit like Jeff Parker, maybe. I mean, Jeff Parker has a broader range than that. But there's kind of a silly, cheesy Jeff Parker kind of thing that he does. So I might, or I might not, pick up the next issue. The first time around I read it, my jaw kind of dropped at how dumb it was. Although I sort of halfway through kind of recognized it as like a bad, or a weaker kind of early 80s, late 70s kind of comic book style. That's how I kind of related to it. Batman and Robin had like the most awesome art. This page just makes kind of a mission statement, and it's carried through page after page. Incredible coloring, incredible art, great inking. So it's an extremely appealing visual package. I think a number of us have noticed how Patrick Gleason, there's the good Patrick Gleason and the sloppy Patrick Gleason, and this is Patrick Gleason A-game all the way. And that alone is certainly worth the $3. I really like the way he draws Batgirl here. Wished he could have been the Batgirl artist too. I guess I like when I could think of a lot of comics I would like to see Patrick Gleason on. He's so good. I thought I was going to I've been waiting for Batman on Apocalypse for 4 months now. And I think I just had too many ideas in my own head of what it was going to be like. And I thought I was going to learn more about Apocalypse and get a more complicated view of Apocalypse. But basically Batman is invading hell and beating up demons is what we get here. And it's done really well, and that's great. But I had my own agenda, and it wasn't fulfilled. And I should have known it wasn't going to be fulfilled, because this book has the Robin Rises storyline has not had the focus that I would have preferred all along. And it seems like every other issue I really like the writing. But I think I'm being last issue was very good writing, and I think this issue is probably very good writing too, but for whatever reason I'm not quite feeling it right. I'm a little uncomfortable about all the people, the Bat family plus Cyborg, following him on to Apocalypse. Maybe because I was so set up at this point for a solo adventure. It's just another thing that's a different kind of thing than I was expecting. The Calabac portrayal is very cool, and that he's trying to bring his father back is very interesting, because no one loves anybody on Apocalypse, we thought. And I have a feeling that if he does manage to bring back Darkseid, his reward won't be that pleasing to him. I don't think Darkseid ever treated him very well as a son, anyway. I'm seeped in Kirby and the Fourth World, the original Fourth World books, and those were full of, when we would go to Apocalypse, they were full of crazy, fun, over-the-top characters. And here, like even Glorious Godfrey and the other things we see in Apocalypse are just a little flattened out, and they're just they're just demons in hell, basically. So yeah, I think I just want too much from A Voyage to Apocalypse. It's interesting, there's so much Apocalypse in DC Comics right now. I think there's going to be a Darkseid war coming up in the Justice League. We've had Apocalypse nonstop in Earth 2, and now the Earth 2 World's End is another war with Apocalypse. In the background of all of Future's End is a war with Apocalypse. I feel like there was another thing recently that involved fighting with Apocalypse. Oh, the Green Lantern is all about New Genesis, and I presume Apocalypse will come into it. So it's that whole Fourth World stuff. I'd rather them do one really great series involving Apocalypse and Fourth World, but who wouldn't, rather than so many different things using it. And so I wonder if this Batman and Robin thing, along with having Robin rise, is part of some large universe-wide DCU universe master plan. And I'm not too thrilled by that. But both of those books I enjoyed more than Batman Eternal. A lot of people like this cover, and I can see why, because it seems to have Batgirl in kind of a contemplative mood, and surrounded by bats, and the lighting and the coloring is kind of cool. It is this cliched pose. It's a lighter, less extreme version of the pose that people call the Brokeback pose, which a lot of people feel is something they never posed male heroes in, and it's all about being able to show both the tits and the ass of the female heroine at the same time. And so that was my first thought when I saw this, and I do feel like her butt is front and center and her face is far away from us. But it's not a bad cover, nonetheless. And in some ways the interior art's not bad, but in other ways it really sucks. I'm just flipping the page. And I do feel like it's the colorist who does a lot to really make this artwork, and I really noticed this same colorist last issue with a different artist. His name is Romulu Fajardo Jr. So I thought, he did an exceptional job with coloring, with light sources, and giving you a greater sense of the mood of the characters and the mood of the scene. They even say Turning Point on the cover. I kind of like that. That's kind of old-fashioned, Turning Point, big reveal this issue, that kind of thing. And the two turning points, I guess, are for Batgirl and for Catwoman. And I didn't buy either of those turning points very well, and they seem kind of crucial. I don't see the events that we saw making sense to make Catwoman want to try to clean up or to lead the mobs of Gotham, to make them behave better. I would think it would want her to what we saw would want her to be more like Batman and put everybody in jail, or take everybody down, or in some sense just put her more in an avenging Batman mode. At least that would be my reading of it. And I felt very manipulated by that whole sequence too, where the girl gets killed. It just seemed like another thing that when they discussed this plot in a writer's room together, like a TV show, the way they're supposedly doing this, that made sense at the time, but when you're down in the trenches, when you're actually going through the story, it isn't as motivating and as convincing and as sincere as is needed for this big turning point, for me. And the same with the Batgirl scenes. I'm not even sure what Red Hood taught Batgirl with all of this. That she's better than the rest of them. It just doesn't make... Is that supposed to calm her down from her revenge-driven rage because her father's not been freed? It just again didn't have a hook. Didn't get a hook into me. Didn't work for me. Um, so, I don't know. And Batman just kind of disappears, right? He's there, and then he's gone. Last issue, we saw him in a big fight scene with Catwoman and a big conversation scene with her. But he's nowhere to be seen here. Or, I mean, he's seen for a second, and his involvement is very small. So, it's funny, I responded really negatively to the issue, but now while I'm talking about it, it doesn't seem quite so bad to me. But it definitely, I think it colored my reading of the other Batman book, other Bat-related books, also. So actually, this has been therapeutic. I now feel like I'm probably not wanting to drop Batman Eternal. I was kind of, earlier in the week when I first read this, I was kind of feeling, maybe I should just drop this and read other things. There's plenty of fish in the sea, in the comic book sea, and plenty of Batman books, although very addictive to have the weekly book, as we've often said. So, thank you for helping me with my Bat therapy. Now I will be able to open my wallet in 2 days, or it might be just in 1 day by the time you see this video. It's late Monday night as I film this. I will be able to open my wallet, and because I've cleansed my soul on this Batman stuff, and buy more Batman. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.